A black war hero tied to a pole by laughing white cops, in broad daylight. No charges, no justice, just silence. Until the day one man returned home, not just as a son, but as their new police chief. They didn't recognize him, but he recognized them. Now, the man they mocked is rising, and the system that protected them is about to face a storm it never saw coming. This time, justice wears his name. White cops tied a black veteran to a pole for fun. Not knowing his son was their new chief. It started on a blistering summer afternoon, the kind of heat that makes asphalt shimmer and truth impossible to hide. Jameson Bell, a 67-year-old black Vietnam veteran, walked out of the corner store carrying a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread. His limp was permanent, a gift from shrapnel in '68. The flag pin on his cap gleamed, stubborn and proud. In this small southern town, he was a ghost of forgotten battles, his dignity weathered but unbroken. The laughter came before the voices. "Hey, old man, where you limping to so fast?" Jameson turned, slow and cautious. 3 white cops in uniform, lounging by their cruiser, sipping gas station sodas, grinning like children who'd never been taught the weight of their badges. "What's in the bag?" "Stolen valor snacks," one said. The others chuckled. Jameson's grip on the milk tightened. "Leave me be," he muttered. "Wrong answer." "Aw, don't be like that, Sarge. We're just playing." One stepped forward. "We always like to have a little fun with the neighborhood legends." Before he could react, the milk hit the sidewalk, bursting open. His arm was twisted behind him, his knees buckled, and then he felt it. Cold metal against his back as they pressed him against the rusted pole outside the station. They zip-tied his wrists and ankles and left him standing there, tied to that damn pole like a dog on display. People passed. Some stared. Most looked away. His face burned with shame, his throat clenched. He didn't cry. Jameson Bell hadn't cried since '73. Hours passed. The sun dipped. No charge, no paperwork. Just a cruel joke played on the wrong man. When they finally cut him down, one of the officers winked. "Should have just laughed along, man." Jameson said nothing. But when he got home, his hands shaking, his son was waiting. Captain Elijah Bell, newly appointed chief of police, fresh from Detroit, smart, controlled, deadly with silence. He saw his father's wrists. He didn't speak. He just took a long, cold breath and asked, "Who did this?" The camera lingered on Jameson's face as he gave 3 names. Elijah didn't blink. He just walked toward the hallway, pulled open the drawer where he kept the sealed envelope with the mayor's emergency authorization inside, his key to internal investigations. Then he picked up the phone and dialed the precinct. "Tell the night shift I'll be in early." Fade to black. Captain Elijah Bell stood in his father's living room, staring at the fading zip tie marks wrapped around Jameson's wrists like ghosts of humiliation. The old man hadn't said a word since naming the officers. He didn't need to. Elijah could see the war all over him, not Vietnam, but the new war, one that never ended, one fought with laughter and cruelty instead of bullets. Elijah had only been chief for 2 weeks. He hadn't wanted to come back to this town. But duty brought him home, and now, this. He walked out without another word, his mind boiling quiet. The precinct, the atmosphere shifted when he entered. Officers sat straighter, conversations paused. They hadn't expected him in until next week, but Elijah Bell was a storm moving without wind, without sound. Calm, collected, lethal. "Detectives, Carr, Vance, and Holloway," he said evenly. "In my office. Now." They shuffled in, all swagger and smirks, thinking this was a routine meet and greet. Elijah closed the door, slowly, no smile, no greetings, just a pause. Then, "My father is Jameson Bell." The room fell silent. "And yesterday," Elijah said, stepping forward, "you zip-tied a decorated veteran to a pole like an animal, for fun." Carr chuckled nervously. "Chief, it was just hazing. Tradition. Hell, he didn't even resist." Elijah cut him off. "You're all on administrative. Leave pending internal investigation. Badge. Gun. Desk. Now!" The smirks faded. Rage sparked behind their eyes, but fear crept in too. "You think this town protects you?" Elijah whispered. "You don't realize—" "I do." He stepped aside, gesturing to the door. "Don't make me come find you." The three men exited. In stunned silence, outside word was already spreading, and Elijah hadn't even started yet. Elijah sat alone in his office after the door shut behind them. The quiet wasn't peace. It was pressure, heavy and thick. He glanced at the black and white photo on his desk. His father in uniform, fresh from the war, standing beside a younger version of Elijah at his high school graduation. That man had fought overseas and come home to fight again, only this time he wasn't dodging bullets. He was dodging boys with badges and smirks. Elijah clenched his jaw. He hadn't come back to play politics. He'd come to build something real. But this town, his town, had rot beneath the floorboards, and now it was seeping up through the cracks. He opened a locked drawer and pulled out a flash drive, recordings from the precinct's exterior cameras. He'd already cued the footage. There it was, time-stamped, clear as daylight. Jameson Bell. Milk and bread in hand, then the three officers, laughing, taunting, manhandling, restraining, tying. He watched it without blinking. His father didn't struggle, didn't shout, just stood, there, silent, proud, humiliated in plain sight. Elijah's fists trembled, but he didn't cry. He couldn't afford to. Instead, he picked up the intercom phone. "Lieutenant Morales, my office." Moments later, Morales entered. Loyal, sharp, Latina. One of the few officers Elijah trusted. "I need you to open an internal file under my direct supervision," he said. "High priority. No leaks. No one else touches it." She nodded, catching the fire behind his eyes. "Are we starting something?" she asked. He looked back at the screen. His father, still tied. Still enduring. "No," Elijah said. "We're finishing it." Outside, the precinct buzzed with rumors. Inside, a reckoning had begun, and the town had no idea how close the fire really was. The next morning, the precinct felt colder. Elijah stepped into the squad room like a surgeon entering an operating theater. Every eye tracked him. Some with respect, some with fear. A few with quiet defiance. He moved with purpose, stopping by Morales's desk. "Leak?" he asked. She shook her head. "None. But whispers are everywhere. Word got out. Of course it did. In a small town like this, truth and rumor dance hand in hand. In the break room, he overheard one officer mutter, "You'd think the old man pissed on the flag the way Chief's going off." Another laughed. Elijah didn't stop walking, but his voice cut sharp. "That old man bled for this country while you were still wetting beds." Silence dropped like a hammer. He entered the briefing room and turned to face the gathered patrol officers. "I won't yell," he began. "I won't threaten. But I will make this clear. This department doesn't protect bullies. We don't serve our egos. We serve this community, and that includes the people you don't like, don't understand, or don't respect." A pause. "My father was tied to a pole by three of our own, and too many of you watched that footage and looked away." He stared them down. "Justice will be done, with or without your cooperation." A young black officer, Davis, raised his hand. "Chief, if someone speaks up, are they protected?" Elijah locked eyes with him. "By me. Personally." Davis nodded slowly. In the corner, a senior officer stood and walked out. No words, just a slow retreat. One of the old guard. Elijah watched him go, knowing full well this wouldn't end in silence. This was just the fuse. That night, the phone rang in Elijah's office. Morales again, whispering, "You need to see this." He met her in records where she pulled out an unmarked file, locked in a back cabinet. "Anonymous drop," she said, "left on my desk." Inside, printed screenshots from body cams, edited, chopped, deleted from the digital logs. But someone had made copies. Insurance, evidence. In one still frame, Carr was mid-laugh, holding a Sharpie up to Jameson's forehead. Elijah's breath caught. They wrote on him. The frame showed it clearly. Property, a single word. Capital. Letters, bold, branded across the skin of a war hero like cattle. He closed the folder slowly. "This wasn't hazing," he said. "No," Morales replied. "This was a message. A message from men who never expected consequences, who thought they were untouchable. Elijah sat back, his heartbeat a drum. The town would fracture if this got out, but it needed to get out. He pressed his palms together and whispered, "They wanted a show. Let's give them one." The next morning, Elijah called a press conference. Cameras, reporters, locals, veterans, protesters. He stood behind the podium, the image of composure, but fire behind his eyes. "In my first days as chief," he said, "I was made aware of an incident involving one of our most decorated citizens, Jamison Bell, my father." Gasps, murmurs. He held up the body cam still frame for all to see. "I promised transparency. I promised justice. This is what we're starting with." Then, effective immediately, officers Carr, Vance, and Holloway are under federal investigation. The Department of Justice has been notified, and more suspensions are coming. The crowd erupted, some in applause, some in outrage. But one thing was clear. Elijah Bell wasn't just playing defense. He was going to burn down the whole rotten system. The firestorm hit hard. Within hours of the press conference, Elijah's office line rang nonstop. City council, local business owners, even the mayor. "Elijah," the mayor said through clenched teeth, "you just accused half your department on live television." "No," Elijah replied coldly. "I accused 3 officers. The rest can decide what they want to stand next to." Click. Morales entered with a stack of reports. Anonymous tips started pouring in. Elijah glanced through them, dozens of small complaints, excessive force, racial slurs, unfiled citations, all circling the same names. For years, the department had been a castle with the doors locked from the inside. Now Elijah had kicked the door in. Downstairs, officers whispered. Behind half-closed doors, some scowled, others nodded when they thought no one was looking, and one, Officer Davis, slipped Elijah a flash drive without a word. Inside, raw audio, Carr laughing. "Ain't nobody gonna touch us. Hell, even if they do, you know how quick this town forgets." Elijah forwarded the clip directly to Internal Affairs. He didn't sleep that night. Neither did Morales. The precinct was buzzing like a hive kicked hard. Outside, protesters gathered, holding signs that read, "Veterans deserve respect and justice for Jamison." But just before sunrise, Morales burst into Elijah's office. "Das. Found something on your father's porch." Elijah stood slowly. "Found what?" She held up a photo. A dead crow nailed to his front door. Red paint scrawled beneath it. "Stay in your place." Elijah stared, fire growing behind his eyes. "You think this is going to make me stop?" He picked up his badge, clipped it on, and whispered, "Now we don't just clean house. We burn it to the ground." Jamison stood on his porch, staring at the nailed crow. He didn't flinch, didn't speak. Just reached up and gently pulled it down, wrapped it in an old newspaper and tossed it in the garbage. "I've seen worse," he muttered. But his eyes told another story. They were tired. Not from age, but from history repeating itself. Elijah pulled up moments later. No words. Just a hug, tight, unspoken. Pain shared in silence. "You don't have to fight this for me," Jamison finally said. Elijah stepped back, his voice low and clear. "I'm not just fighting for you, Pop. I'm fighting for who comes next." Later that day, Internal Affairs swept the department. Warrants were issued, desks were cleared, boxes packed, faces. Pale, Carr, Vance, and Holloway were escorted out in cuffs. The image went viral in minutes. 3 former heroes, now publicly disgraced. But Elijah wasn't done. He reinstated every suppressed complaint, opened the cold cases, and personally met with victims long ignored. One woman cried in his office. A teenage boy's mother whispered thank you, like a prayer. The town watched as a broken system bent beneath the weight of truth. And yet, at night, threats continued. Windows broken, tires slashed. Messages scrawled in red on Elijah's fence. "You'll never be one of us." But he never blinked, because he had one last move to make. A town hall was scheduled, open to the public, open mic, live broadcast. It would be the final confrontation. The whole town would be watching, and Elijah had one surprise left. He called Jamison the night before. You up for saying something tomorrow? His father paused. Then, I've been silent long enough. The town hall was standing room only. Citizens packed the auditorium. Black, white, young, old. Some came in anger, others in curiosity, a few in quiet shame. The whole town buzzed with tension like a taut wire ready to snap. Elijah sat on stage beneath the spotlight, stoic, hands folded, cameras rolled, reporters whispered. The mayor, red-faced and stiff, sat beside him, outnumbered, outmaneuvered. And then slowly, Jamison Bell stepped up to the podium. No uniform, just his faded veteran's cap and dignity stitched into every line of his face. He didn't speak for a long moment, just looked out over the crowd, at the town that had spit him out, tied him up, and turned away. "My name is Jamison Bell," he began, voice gravel-thick. "I served this country, bled for it, and I came home thinking I'd earned something." A pause. "Turns out, I earned silence. I earned laughter behind my back. I earned rope around my wrists." The room was still. "I didn't tell my son what happened because I didn't want him to carry my shame, but I see now it was never mine to carry. It belonged to this town. And today, I give it back." Gasps, applause. Some stood, some wept. Elijah stepped beside his father, hand on his shoulder. "Today," Elijah said, "we don't bury this pain. We honor it and rebuild." He turned to the mayor. "I'm forming a civilian review board. Independent, diverse, transparent, and my father will be the first chair." The mayor looked like he'd swallowed fire. The room erupted. Poetic justice wasn't always revenge. Sometimes it was watching the silenced take the microphone. Jamison tipped his cap, and for the first time in years, he smiled. The town would never be the same again.